Hello, Zeb Aurelios from Star Wars Rebels, and you're listening to Inside the Force. Carabas. Gotta go, Hera's here.
It is a period of Star Wars mania, as new movies, comic books, novels, and TV shows populate the system. Fueled by their love and passion for the galaxy far, far away, two exceptional geeks tap into hundreds of holocrons in order to bring you the knowledge and insight of all things Star Wars. Come and join them as they go inside the Force.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Inside the Force. Dave Cottingham here, and with me on this special edition episode of Inside the Force, I got my good buddy Evan Lewis from the Jodo cast. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing? It's been a while.
It has been a while. So, I say good friend of mine, but I know you haven't been on this show.
That's
because,
true. Good point.
Very good point. So everybody that's listening, if you've tuned into our other podcasts, well, we did many over the years, but we have the Combat Guild podcast where we talk about Star Wars LCG, Star Wars the card game, which sadly is going away. But we won't discuss that here. But yeah, we've had Evan on there a couple times. Talking gaming because he specializes in all tabletop games. His Jodo cast they've been doing for a while talks a bunch of gaming, not just Star Wars games. But you are a big Star Wars fan, I know this. So
absolutely,
of course, I'm going to bring you on the show to talk Star Wars. Period.
As you should.
As we should. So, but before we get into that, since this is the first time, tell everybody a little bit about the Jodo cast and your background a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I guess I wasn't prepared for that, but I should have
well, it's like clockwork now, right?
Yeah. I should have like a saved document where I just whip that out.
Yes.
All right. So let's see here. Me, lifelong Star Wars fan, born in 81, so saw Return of the Jedi when I was like 2.
Yeah.
Read all the Legends stuff and, became an expert in air quotes on that, and now it's all gone. But then 2011, got on my first Star Wars podcast talking about Old Republic, the MMO, and then that rolled up into talking about all the Star Wars games and started the Jodo cast, which is JodoCast is an old Legends character, and we couldn't resist making the pun out of JodoCast with a K and podcast with a C. So
nice.
There you go.
Nice. Yeah, and we met. We obviously met on the LCG circuit, basically. Being that that's really the only tabletop Star Wars game that I really ever got into. And so yeah, Evan, we actually played each other. Was that a regional?
It was regional. Yes.
Yes.
Up in Muncie, Indiana.
Muncie, Indiana. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. I did we split or did I beat you twice?
Oh no, you beat the living tar out of me. I was just like sitting there staring at my cards, like what is happening?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I remember that. I ended up placing fourth in that.
Just fourth. Okay.
Just fourth. I actually thought I was going to win the thing, but that's okay. No, Evan's great. We love talking Star Wars, and we got a lot to talk about on this episode because there's a lot going on. First thing, Evan, you mentioned, you know what? You brought up something that I didn't have on the list, so I'm going to start skewing off the agenda a little bit. You brought up the EU, and, we Casey and I, on this show, he was a lot more into the EU than I was. I actually just read a few of the books. I never actually really got into the KOTOR games or too much like that. But I I loved hearing about the stories. And he was a big EU person. He's a lot younger than us, so he grew up with the EU. I mean, so where are you at? Since you're kind of my generation, actually, where are you at with what they did with the EU, and have you been happy with some of the EU characters and instances that they've actually brought into canon?
I actually have been pretty happy with the job that they've done with bringing some of those characters in, and every time they do it, it's really exciting, and you hope it's going to be as good as it was, just in terms of the quality. But then you also kind of fall into the trap of, think of predicting and thinking like, oh, this is exactly how it's going to happen because that's how it happened before, and then it doesn't, and you can either choose to be really disappointed, like so many people on the internet, or you can choose to be like, oh, well, that was different. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like what happened with Rebels.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
But I'm certainly not against most of what's been coming out in terms of expanding the now official Star Wars. Like I absolutely love Force Awakens, Rogue One, Last Jedi. I have been so blown away by those. It's hard for me to compare them to. Well, I mean, they beat the tar out of the prequels, but compared to the originals, it's hard because, we've loved those for so long, but these new ones are awfully good.
So, out of the EU material, like, I wouldn't, unless you know it, want you to say what's your top, storyline, but what is kind of one of your favorites? Either games or books or something like that, or comics.
Well, if I say anything except my usual answer, people will look at me funny. And my answer for all of those is the Old Republic era.
The Old Republic, yeah.
Yeah, so not just the MMO from 2012, but the KOTOR games and the KOTOR comics, especially the 50-issue run by John Jackson Miller.
Yeah.
I think it's still the best Star Wars comic that's ever been made.
Wow. Okay.
And that was one of the first Dark Horse reprints that Marvel put out because it's that good.
Wow. Yeah, you might have just convinced me to go back and read some EU because that's some strong words right there.
And all that Old Republic stuff has not been officially overwritten yet.
You're exactly right. That is 100% correct.
It's a safe timeline that EU people can still roll around and wallow in.
Totally agree. I would. I don't know if I've ever said this really, but I think I was a huge fan of the Shadows of the Empire book.
That was my first EU book.
Yes. So that was one. I think that might have been one of my first too.
Yep. 1996.
Yes, taking place between Empire and Jedi, and it just filled in a gap that made you just wonder, made your imagination go crazy because first kind of official, I think maybe official, but first description of Coruscant with our main characters, and of course Black Sun's in that, and it's just introduced that whole different side of the black market and all that stuff, and I don't know, it was just and then of course you get now I don't know if you're aware of this. Are you watching any of those Star Wars Destinies?
Yeah. Forces of Destiny?
I'm sorry, Forces of Destiny, yes.
Yeah, let's see here. I have not seen the new ones that just came out.
So there's one in there. I'll let you just watch it, but there's one in there that basically eliminates Shadows of the Empire.
Oh, okay. I think I saw someone mention it on Twitter.
Yeah. About Leia. Yeah.
Yeah. But we know that I'm pretty sure Fallines are still canon.
Yes.
Maybe?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct. Yep. Anyway, it's a cool little episode. It's actually brings in another character that we didn't know was around. We knew they were around, but we didn't know they were interacting with the main characters from the original trilogy. So I'll leave you with that. It's a pretty cool episode.
Okay.
So anyway, EU will, we don't really talk about that except when it's brought up with these characters that do make its way into the EU. So one of the things we will talk about later on in this show is Thrawn, who is obviously probably the most popular EU character, arguably, that has finally made his way into canon. And I want to talk to Evan a little bit about that here later on. But before that, a couple things. One of the big news stories that obviously have hit in the past week and a half is the hiring of Jon Favreau, who is now commissioned to write and produce a live-action Star Wars television series for the new streaming platform coming in 2019. Now, for those of you that don't know, which I'm pretty sure you do, Favreau is not a stranger to Star Wars. He's been a voice actor for Star Wars. He played Pre Vizsla in the Clone Wars. And I want to say there was a character in Rebels, but the name, who he was, is escaping me right now. I don't know if you know who that is, Evan.
No, I was just trying to think if he was in there at all.
He did a character. I can't remember. I don't know why I don't have it in front of me right now, but he did a character in Rebels. And of course, he's no stranger to Disney, as he's worked on Iron Man, the Jungle Book, and right now he's working on the live action The Lion King. So I'm a huge fan of Jon Favreau. I've been following him ever since he did Swingers all those years ago. I think he's a brilliant director. I don't know how much TV he's actually done, but Star Wars is just, no matter what medium it is, it's still storytelling, and I think he's one of the best storytellers out there right now. So, what do you feel like about the hiring of Jon Favreau?
It's a very mixed bag because he is such a high quality filmmaker, and like he's that generation that I think was like just before us. I mean, I shouldn't even say generation, but he was born. Right. He was born like right after Star Trek premiered, so he grew up with the first wave of all this stuff.
Correct.
And so we know that he loves it. I mean, he pretty much put his stamp on the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Mm-hmm. He set the tone for the whole thing.
That's right.
We have him to thank. So, I mean, it's not as if it's not in good hands. And if he were the last white guy to be helming a Star Wars project, he'd be a great last one to do it.
I know, right?
Yeah. I have become much more aware of things like that over the last few years, and I'm not nearly as I do like him a lot. I think he's going to do great. It's the Game of Thrones guys that kind of add to the list of getting big name people on board because they're big name people.
Right.
And it's, that gets to be a little worrisome.
It does.
When they start just getting big talent because they want big talent attached to something.
Right. As with Chris Miller and Phil Lord.
Yes.
As with Colin Trevorrow.
Yeah, that too.
So then all of a sudden these guys get kind of pushed away when creative differences come in. In fact, there was a rumor that I read on Twitter, I think a couple weeks ago, that came out that Colin Trevorrow, I don't know if you heard this, but Colin Trevorrow was claiming that the reason why he got off was that because they killed Luke Skywalker off. Because his whole plan of Episode 9 had to do with Luke Skywalker.
Huh.
So
I hadn't heard that.
Which in the end does make sense. I mean, because when he's hired, he doesn't know the outcome of episode 8 yet because it hasn't even hadn't even started shooting yet. So I'm sure a lot of people didn't know he was going to die. Just kind of Ryan and maybe Kathleen Kennedy and some other people in the story group and all that stuff. But you get into production, and then because episode 9, obviously you're waiting, right? You got to wait till the movie's done to decide what to do, what to write.
Yeah,
and apparently he had a lot of issues that he didn't have Luke Skywalker to write. So they kind of bowed out together in a sense.
Right.
Which is, I mean, I guess that speaks somewhat highly for JJ to come back, because I'm sure because he got on episode 7 because of that question of who Luke Skywalker is, so the fact that he's gone, and I mean, I think it's kind of naive to think that Luke's not going to come back as a ghost.
Exactly.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So, but he's not going to be the focal point as I think Favreau wanted him to be. But you mentioned Rogue One, and Gareth Edwards did. I thought Rogue One is easily one of my, if not the top Star Wars movie in my. It's number 2. I thought Gareth Edwards did a fantastic job with Rogue One.
Yes, absolutely. And I wouldn't have known his name prior to that.
No, I knew he did. He's the one that did Monster, I think, right? I think he did a movie called Monster. It was a little indie movie that went really big.
Yeah, from like a decade ago?
Yeah. I don't think it was a decade ago.
With Charlize Theron?
No, that was a different movie named Monster.
Oh, okay.
He did a little, he did a lot of little. He did like a creature movie, like a Cloverfield type movie, but it was really well done. I think. I hope I'm talking about the same Gareth Edwards, but
I'm looking it up. Don't worry.
Yeah, I think that's what drew.
Monsters plural.
Monsters.
And he did Godzilla.
Correct. Yeah,
there you go.
Sorry. Yeah. So he did Monsters, which got him Godzilla, and then of course Godzilla. That was a precursor to Rogue One. I enjoyed Godzilla, actually. A lot of people didn't.
I did too. I thought it was good.
I thought it was fantastic. I thought the marketing was incredible. That trailer where you had like the skydivers, falling from the sky, you know what I'm talking about, and then you see the shadow of Godzilla in the background. I thought that was incredible. But no, well done movie, Gareth Edwards with despite the reshoots that apparently that Tony Gilroy did, but either way, I think the movie was fantastic.
Yep, agreed.
So any guesses or thoughts on what you think the live action series is going to be? Maybe not what it is, but even the time frame of where you think that's going to take place.
Thinking. The live action series, I would be very surprised if they did not try to somehow resurrect the underworld story that apparently was pretty well written and done, at least for a first season.
Yes. And
I think with Jon Favreau at the helm, they could put together a really solid smugglery, scum and villainy TV series that is not going to rely on laser swords and picking people up and twirling them around. It's going to be blasters and fast cars like we're going to see in Solo.
Yes, good. That's a good point. So you're thinking old original trilogy era?
Oh, so era. I'm thinking it'll either be during the long span between 3 and 4, so floating probably less close to Rebel/Rogue One and maybe closer to the early days of the Empire would be interesting, or between New Hope and Empire, where, I mean, Empire is still around, but they just got kicked in the balls. So,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a very interesting time for Underworld folks.
Yeah, I hope it's still, if they do that, I do hope it's still centered around, you know, some bounty hunters. It'd be nice to see some of those familiar ones pop up, like a Dengar or because you can do an IG-88 still at any time.
And have Daniel Logan play Boba Fett.
Oh my
of
gosh,
course.
you kidding me? That would be incredible.
And he could bring in Vince Vaughn to play anybody.
Anybody. That's true, yeah. That is true. Actually, he could be a Dengar. Wrap his head up.
Good.
And, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, so that's interesting. I definitely agree with the Underworld part. I mean, I think why I mean, if you know, if they were as good as they were claiming they were going to be as far as you know, the storylines and stuff like that, and why not use it? Why not?
Actually, I'm gonna revise my answer because I just had a really good idea.
Oh,
and
okay.
If they're listening to this, they should use this idea.
You're going to give it to them for
charge.
free?
I'll give it to them.
Wow. Okay.
So if they said it, because Underworld was supposed to feature Saw Gerrera, have it take place leading up to, like maybe even concurrent with most of Rebels, leading up to Rogue One. That way, we can get the Rogue One characters back.
Wow. In live action form.
In live action form, yep. Well, heck, we should have seen them more in Rebels. I'm mad that we didn't get that.
Yeah. You mean Rogue One?
No, the Rogue One characters in Rebels.
Oh, the Rogue One
That's
characters
what I
in
wanted.
Rebels, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could have swore we were going to get like Cassian.
Yeah.
I thought there was
Just
a
that
rumor
alone.
out there that was going to happen, but I guess not.
A scene with K2 and Chopper. That's all.
Yeah.
You know
Oh,
what?
man,
My
yeah.
life will be complete.
Yeah, and I always thought it was great too that I mean, if you really look at it, I mean, even the voice actors that play the Rebels characters, I mean, they actually look similar to the characters.
Yeah.
You know, Freddie Prinze could easily be Kanan. You know,
that would be so good. He would lose it, and he wouldn't believe it.
I know, right? Yeah, totally. I mean, even Tia Sakar, I think her name is. I mean,
Yep.
she's not even familiar with Star Wars until this show, and then but she's Sabine up, you know, through and through.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would be even. I mean, even just a cameo. I mean, whatever. It'd just be that would be incredible. I thought that. I made the. You know, I've always been sticking to ever since Episode 7 came out. I just feel like Lucasfilm, the story group, I still think they're still just riding out this original trilogy era. You know,
Yeah.
with Rogue One and Han, and even 7, 8, 9 still have that old, you know, original trilogy feel to them. So, I agree with you. I think we're going to get more around that time, either, you know, 4 or 5 years before A New Hope, or during the original trilogy. I mean, I think there was one time me and Casey kicked around the idea of what if it was similar to, actually I'm bringing up similar to Shadows of the Empire, where, you know, Boba Fett's got Carbonite Han and he's trying to get Han to Jabba, but all these other bounty hunters are trying to attack him and steal Han.
Yeah.
Like, that's a show right there, I think. I think that would be incredible.
I would take that any day.
Yeah. I mean, or that's a movie, or that's the Boba Fett movie. I mean, see, that's my free one. They could have that one.
There you go.
Boba
Man,
Fett.
we're just
free
doing
Boba
their
Fett
job
movie.
for
Yeah.
them.
Where do you think they get all these good ideas? They listen to our shows. That's what's happening. Well, segueing into that real quick, then let's Solo coming out in a mere 65 days or something like that, 66 days maybe.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Where are you with that? And I guess start off by where you are with expectations of that film, and then of course the director change. How confident are you in what happened with that?
So leading up to the Super Bowl, I had bad expectations that I was trying to temper to zero, like just none, just flat, no expectations at all.
Well, and what was the main reason for the no expectations?
Main reason for having sub-zero expectations was just that I was in the camp that said this is not a story that is demanding to be made.
Yeah.
That Han is a character who is best served by not knowing more about him.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Even though I did read 2 out of 3 of the volumes of the Han Solo trilogy, not the really old one, but the one from the late 90s.
Yeah, great books. Great books.
Yeah, you know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, I did read those, but I still think that, maybe a little ambiguity is maybe better for the character.
Mm-hmm.
And there's other things they could be giving us, like, I don't know, more stuff about Rise of the First Order, more stuff about Poe and Snap and the rest of Blue Squadron, all that stuff. But then I saw the trailers, and my hype level just, buried the needle. And now I'm like, no, settle down, don't get hype now. And I'm still going to try to go in with low to moderate expectation. I'm not going to go in with TLJ or even Rogue One levels of expectation. I'm going to go in with the next Fast and Furious movie expectation.
Right. Yeah. Just want to go in and enjoy yourself.
Yeah, don't expect my world to be changed.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so are you I guess you're okay with the fact that they recasted Han Solo?
Well, yeah, I mean, the people that are upset that he doesn't look like him enough,
mm-hmm.
I just listen to those comments and shake my head, because having someone look like someone is like, I said like a lot, but I wasn't saying it like that. That's about 10% of a performance, maybe less than that.
Yeah.
The acting, the emotion that they put into it, how deep they get into the character, that's the crux and the heart of playing a role.
Yeah.
And someone on Twitter pointed out Kirk in the recent Star Trek movies doesn't really look like Shatner.
Right.
But he's great. He's capturing the pieces of Kirk that we love, and I think Alden Ehrenreich is going to capture those pieces of Han that we like, and he'll make us believe that this is the guy that pissed off Jabba, this is the guy that swindled Lando.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm looking forward to it a lot.
Yeah, my biggest hang up was the casting, because I just felt like that. I get it if you're a younger Han Solo. Now they keep saying that he is a younger Han Solo, but they've actually changed what Han Solo's age is in A New Hope. It was always that.
Really?
Yeah, it was always that. Well, it was always known kind of that he was in his 27, 28 range. Well, actually, I saw a tweet, one of Pablo's Hidalgo's kind of from Story Group, one of his threads, where someone was making that point, and he said, "Well, actually, Han's more like in his early 30s in A New Hope." which makes him a little older, meaning that, Alden here that plays Han in this movie, this is supposed to be about 10 years before that. So he's, early 20s, kind of the Star Wars age these days, the 19, 20-year-old. So that, I guess I can go with that. I mean, look, I'm with you. I had my concerns mainly about the look and feel of Han Solo, because I even though I agree with you that the character does a lot more, adds more to it, and the storyline adds more to it, but I just, the beauty of Star Wars has always been the likeness of these characters. Like Mark Hamill is Luke Skywalker forever. That Luke Skywalker looks like that in whatever you draw him in. If he's in a comic, or if he's in a TV show, or an animated show or something like that, he just looks like Mark Hamill, right? And now it's like you see because you have a younger Han Solo, you have a young Harrison Ford that's played him technically, right? Because I think Harrison Ford is actually the same age when he played him in A New Hope that Alden is right now playing him in Solo. So it's like I just don't know if you make a lunch pail with Han Solo on it. Whose face are you putting on there? Because they are different. They don't look that similar, right? Maybe some 5-year-old kid can't tell the difference necessarily, but that's another thing too. Is like you've got this whole generation coming up right now that's just got introduced to Rebels, just got introduced to The Last Jedi. That's that 7-8 range of age, and now they're technically getting introduced to Han Solo. So Alden, I think Ehrenreich is his last name. Alden, yep. He is going to be their Han Solo, right? Which
sure
is not going to. I guess saying that out loud is not all that bad.
It seems bad because you want to be like, no, you want to shake the little 5-year-old. That's not Han Solo.
Yeah. Then they're going to say like, well, why? Who's that old guy? Yeah. But I get it. I get it. Because you could have said this. You kind of could have. Well, not really. I was about to say you could have kind of done the same thing with Obi-Wan, but there's a huge gap in age there. I don't know. But I'm with you. After seeing the footage, I think the footage looks fantastic. I just simply want that. I want that Indiana Jones type movie. I just want this a fun adventure movie that I can just watch over and over. And why not let it be a Star Wars movie?
And I think we're going to get that. And something that, and this is just a very small, very minor thing, but for me, there's already a line from the trailer that is just something, just now it's just a line that I say or think when something happens. And it's thought we were in trouble there for a second, but it's fine. We're fine. And then something bad happens, and
yeah,
that's already stuck with me. It's already, I've already drank the juice. I've already drank the Kool-Aid. So if you want to join the cult, you're more than welcome.
So what are you? So do you think at all you'll notice anything about the movie in regards to the director change?
Oh, I will probably. Let me back up really quick. I don't think it'll be nearly as bad, as jarring, as the director switch on Justice League.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, did you see it? I wouldn't blame you if you didn't see it.
Look, I am besides being a massive Star Wars fan, I'm actually a massive DC fan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm Marvel. I'm not really into Marvel. The movies I'm a huge fan of, but I don't read any comic books. I didn't have no idea who Iron Man was before the movies, stuff like that. But I grew up with, Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Martian Manhunter, the Flash. Those man, I am huge. Now, that's a whole nother show. But I tell you, in summary, I loved Man of Steel. I thought Man of Steel was fantastic.
Okay.
I enjoyed Batman vs Superman. I know it has its flaws, but I enjoyed seeing those two of my two favorite characters on the same screen.
Yep, I feel that.
And I thought Justice League was too short. I don't think there was enough development in that movie.
There definitely was not.
Yeah. But I enjoyed the entertainment part of the action. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
But you could probably tell, like, this
I could
scene
definitely
is
tell
a Zack
that
Snyder scene, and this one's a Joss Whedon scene.
Absolutely. I would have rather preferred a full Zack Snyder film. Because, again, my whole theory about all that was that that this was, even though they're named differently, this was a trilogy of movies. Mm-hmm. There weren't it wasn't like the MCU where they were separated, stories.
Right.
This was one big story, and I think a lot of people lost sight of that. But again, I think Justice League didn't flush out enough to make it interesting. So that's a whole nother.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't think it's going to be nearly as jarring and a viewing experience as that. I think they probably scorched a lot of that earth to make room for new, and Ron Howard just lends himself so well to so many references and memes, looking at like American Graffiti, and having worked with George Lucas before and being an amazing director in his own right. And that's an instance, strangely enough, talking about getting a big name attached to a project. That's a huge name.
Huge.
But it didn't feel like we need a big name to salvage this. It was more like, oh yeah, Ron Howard will do it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Just like, yeah, he's been here before. He was like in the first Lucasfilm movie, aside from THX 1138.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it felt very natural to me. So I'm looking forward to seeing a Ron Howard Star Wars film. And I think he was one of those people, like when the prequels were coming out, that George went to and said, "Oh, you should direct Episode 1." And he said, "No, George, you should do it," which is kind of a bad idea, obviously, at this point. But he seems like a natural pick, so I'm happy about that. Yeah,
I agree with that. I think I think it was inevitable at some point he was going to do a Star Wars movie. I mean, he just happened to be tapped to fix this one in a sense or take over, but I don't think this. A part of me doesn't feel like this is going to be his last one. I feel like he could do another one at some point. So that's okay. So that's good. So anyway, yeah, that's coming out in a mere, 60-something days.
Yeah,
2 months
short.
Basically. Yeah, I'm sure tickets will be on sale soon. Go ahead.
And supposedly, we've gotten the big game teaser and then the teaser trailer. So we don't even have like the official trailer yet, even though that teaser trailer was pretty much a full-on trailer. I don't know how they're naming these things anymore.
I would have to say we're going to get it on Infinity War is when we're going to get it. Around the time, so around towards the end, because they moved Infinity War up to the week before, so end of April.
Yeah, April 27th.
Yeah. Well, you said, yeah. Oh, gosh, wait a minute. So Infinity War was actually going to come out May the 4th, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Oh, actually, yes, because one of my friends is getting married over that weekend and was mad that they weren't going to get to go see Infinity War because of it. And now it got moved back, and it was like, okay, sweet. This is meant to be.
I wonder if there's no way they moved it because of that, did they?
I doubt it.
Star Wars
I
Day?
would think because then Solo's not coming out until the end of May.
Right.
I think they just wanted to have a bit more room between
those
true. Two megaton blockbusters.
Very true. Very true. Yeah, because of Star Wars Day, obviously May the 4th, and then May 25th, when Solo comes out, is actually the 41st anniversary.
Yes, the Star Wars Day.
The Star Wars Day.
Star Wars Day.
Yeah. But I'm sure you're seeing it like I am the night before.
Yes.
On the 24th. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So speaking about movies, kind of got your rundown in the beginning of the show about the films that are out there, Force Awakens, Rogue One, The Last Jedi. I think it speaks for itself that The Force Awakens being such a global, massive success, you were a big fan of that one, obviously, and then you mentioned Rogue One as well. But we get to The Last Jedi, and when this comes out, as we've talked about on the show a lot, mixed emotions for that movie. You get on social media, you get a lot of people that liked it, you get a lot of people that hated it. Now, it sounds like you loved it, so explain. What
Explain myself?
Yeah. What were your thoughts, and what are your current thoughts of, and have they changed at all from the release?
I think my general feelings of it have stayed the same, which was blown away, and in a favorable way.
Mm-hmm.
As I have continued to think about it, I like the fact that it toyed with expectations and then either turned them around completely or kind of, in some cases, crushed them.
Right.
Crushed what we were expecting. Because that toying with expectations can turn out a couple of different ways. It can turn out like Last Jedi, or it can turn out like, I don't know if you ever played the Metal Gear Solid series, but Metal Gear Solid 2, that was like playing off of, this is just like last time on purpose, and now we're going to flip it on you and be like, see, it was just like last time for a reason.
Yeah.
And, everyone was saying, oh, this is just going to be Empire Strikes Back. And there were callbacks, there were bits, but in the end, it took those expectations of, oh, here's the big reveal, who is her father? Like, no one.
Yeah.
Just punks. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But then that becomes its own thing. And then I've got people asking me like, hang on, how is it that she has the Force? What do you mean? Well, how does she have the Force? Because the Force said, hey, you've got it, whammo.
Yep.
And they're like, but why? Because the Force. and just like, you don't have to be somebody. Luke was nothing to write home about when he first showed up.
Mm-hmm.
Neither was little slave boy Anakin. He was just a slave.
Yes. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if they'd done the story of slave boy Anakin, it's like, who were his parents? Well, mom was a slave and he didn't have a dad, so that's not that much better.
No, it's not. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm hard pressed to find. I mean, there are certainly areas that I would have said, I wish they could have done XYZ with it.
Uh-huh.
But they didn't. So I'm gonna enjoy the masterful filmmaking and the amazing performances, and go from there.
So no issues with which was obviously one of the big main controversies over the film was the use of Luke's character and what he ultimately ended up becoming.
Not really.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of that is because of that defying expectations, because I got something completely different, because we didn't get the Luke of the New Jedi Order books and Legacy of the Force books, Fate of the Jedi books.
Right.
Who was, incredibly stable and never really let anything get to him too much.
Yeah.
Even when everything is falling apart around him, just like, I'm a Jedi. And it's like, thinking back on it and looking at this Luke, it's like, that's not how human beings act. So I think we got a much more human Luke in this portrayal. Who makes mistakes, and that's what Yoda said. I don't often go back and say, hey, look what Yoda said, because I think Yoda's full of crap 90% of the time.
That's my favorite character.
He's an awesome character.
Yeah.
I love him. But the Jedi of the Latter-day Republic, they could not develop a theological, philosophical system to save their lives.
Oh, true. Or
it's just, was
the dark side that powerful?
That they couldn't even come up with a philosophy to stick to? Maybe.
Well,
it's like, what about the prophecy? Well, what's the prophecy say? I don't know.
Yeah.
It says some stuff.
Yeah, it does. The interpretation of the prophecy. I mean, well, I don't know. I think the prophecy was what it was. I think I think they tried to look into it too much when they felt like it wasn't working out with Anakin. That maybe something was wrong, but I don't think that was true. I think the prophecy ended up coming true. It just took his son to help him realize it.
Yeah.
So in the end, the prophecy kind of fulfilled itself, except now you have this new trilogy where there isn't balance anymore, or the balance is kind of in flux right now. Yep. My thing with Luke is always going to be that I just have a hard time. Well, for one, I've always tried to separate my feelings of what the direction of Episode 8 should have been versus what Rian Johnson did. So I ultimately have taken that step back and like, okay, well, this is his vision, this is his movie, this is where he wanted to see it go, and I respect that. So because I think a lot of the fans' rage out there was that they didn't, like you said, they wanted to see a certain movie and they didn't get it, and that's what they're mad about. Well, it should be this. It should be this when it's up to the filmmaker to make those decisions. But for me, Luke was always. And again, I don't know much about the EU beyond Return of the Jedi. I did a couple of I did the Dark Empire series and the Thrawn trilogy, but I never got into the New Jedi Order, so I don't know about that Luke. All I know is really what Luke was after Return of the Jedi, and at that point, it was, I'm going to pass on what I've learned. I'm the ultimate, I succumbed to the light, rejected the dark completely, and I am going to build the Jedi back to what they should have been, in the prequels.
Mm-hmm.
So I just have a hard time seeing that character go away, and go into hiding and turn his back on the galaxy, basically, when he was so devoted then, with doing it. And then we find out actually that he didn't pass on what he learned right away. He went around and collected artifacts and did research and was finding temples. And it wasn't until Ben was, close to being like, I think 17, 18, that he actually started the temple and started the training. So he hadn't even been doing it that long.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so that's the only part. Like I feel like he would, as a character, he would have done whatever he could have to save Ben, even after he turned on him.
Right.
So that's where I'm a little skeptical. And now I'll throw this at you because I haven't been able to get a chance to talk to Casey about this. I'm doing the. You haven't read the novelization, have you, by chance?
Not yet, sadly.
Okay, so I don't want to. So this is. Well, you tell me if you don't want to hear it. It's a potential spoiler in the book.
Is it the opening of the book?
No, it's about halfway through on the island with Rey. It's not really a spoiler.
Yeah, I mean, I know what happens at the end.
Right.
Go ahead.
So really, what happened? What you find out in the book? I do the audiobooks. I love them because it's like listening to a Star Wars movie.
Mm-hmm.
So the part where Rey, dives down into the dark part of the island and learns, supposedly tries to find out about her parents. So it then cuts to that scene where she's talking, sitting in the hut, talking to Kylo, right? And they touch. That's the scene where they touch, and then Luke busts in and sees that, right, and destroys the hut. Well, there's a part in the book right before that where he's sitting kind of on the shores and looking out into the ocean again, and he comes to the realization that, okay, I have decided that my destiny is to go with Rey and help my sister and fight the First Order. And he is on his way to the hut to tell Rey this when he sees that. So now obviously we don't know any of that in the movie when you're just watching the movie. But his whole intent, he all of a sudden in the novel, which is apparently canon, he has come to the realization that, okay, I am done with this. I am fully committed to helping my sister take down the First Order. I need to go with Rey. So his character, changed a little bit there, but then immediately went back when he saw her and Rey, or her and Kylo together in that hut. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean, if I think about how fearful he became just seeing Rey's unbridled power earlier on and saying that he'd only seen that once before, and then to, feel positive, to feel resolute, and then to walk in on his greatest failure and, potential darkest fear of another repeat of that basically happening right in front of him. Then to just be like attacked, asking to basically confess what really happened.
Yeah.
And I would be just destroyed because the last little shred of like, okay, this can work, we can do this, just gets doused in gasoline and set on fire at that point.
Yeah. But I also think that it's interesting that I feel like that would have added so much to the movie, though.
It totally would have, yes.
Yeah, if that would have been known, or if that scene would have been in there where Luke had that turn. Because in the movie, it just seems like he's still this grumpy old man that will never leave. But if he had that realization and went to her in the hopes that, okay, I'm ready to train you, I'm ready to leave this island and help you, and that would just I just been so much more to that story. I think so. Thought that was pretty interesting.
That's one that I agree that should have stayed, and much like with the Finn Phasma showdown,
yes,
that they released on YouTube, like that should have at least have been integrated a bit more, even if not that version just having been kept.
Yeah, that spoke so much about them. I'm not sure. I understand what happened there, but because that was so underwhelming.
Yeah, well, especially when they had the Phasma comic and the Phasma book, and they're like Phasma.
Yeah,
and I don't know. Maybe that's just part more of that defying expectations thing, but that part, okay. If you're gonna make me pick something that I didn't like about it, it was the Phasma letdown.
Yeah.
Yes, but she'll be back in 3, and maybe she'll be the one to kill Hux and actually survive.
Yeah, true.
She won't die in air quotes.
She doesn't seem like she doesn't seem like she can die. Did you read her novel?
That's another one that's on the list.
Yeah. Okay. So it's interesting. There's I truly won't give anything away, but that you obviously get her entire past, and you get a lot of connection between her and the Huxes, because his father is still alive in that book, Brendel Hux, who is one of the big main architects of the First Order. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty good. I will tell you that the same person, when I got into the book, a friend of mine had read the book already. And I totally agree with his assessment. Is that the beginning of the book and the end of the book are incredible. The middle, not so much. But if you can make your way through the middle part of it, the ending is pretty incredible. So
it's on the list.
It's on the list.
It's a long list.
It is a long list. So as we see, one other thing I wanted to talk to you about which I teased was Thrawn. And then I got one more thing, but the Thrawn, we kind of hit on him being on the EU and being thrust into Rebels, which was a surprise to a lot of people, because you're obviously changing where he falls in the timeline, not beyond Return of the Jedi, but now he's in front of A New Hope. So by the end of Rebels, we are told by Filoni in the post Rebels recon that he's indeed alive, both him and Ezra, and we're kind of left with the end of Rebels with Sabine and Ahsoka kind of being tasked with themselves of trying to find where Ezra is. So, Evan, any thoughts on where you think they are and where they've been this whole time during like the original trilogy?
I did like how they managed to work in the answer to the question of where was Thrawn during the original trilogy.
Very much so.
Because in the EU, it was just, the Emperor had sent him out on this special mission to the unknown regions.
Right.
Just like, that's good timing on his part.
I know, right? Yeah.
He missed the whole thing.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, if only he'd been there.
But no way he got communicated that, hey, we're under attack.
You wouldn't want the Grand Admiral to be there at the destruction of all the rebels at Endor or anything.
Yeah.
So I was glad about that they managed to give a pretty good explanation. Whisked away by space whales is a pretty good excuse.
Very good.
For not being there. And I'd like to think that they... Well, who knows where the first stop was, but
right.
Surely the whales came to a stop And if we're just left with Ezra and Thrawn trucking around in the wreckage of the Chimera, because we know they're alive, so they survive the trip and they survive getting somewhere. Maybe Ezra joins Thrawn headed back towards Chiss space, where and I don't know if you read the Thrawn novel or not. That's one that I did read.
I did, yes.
Yeah. I read that one in like a week.
I know.
Because
It's
Thrawn.
phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. But, he sent his buddy there back to the Ascendancy at the end of the book. So there's clearly something going on out there that needs to be dealt with. And I think if Thrawn and Ezra spend any amount of time together, in Rebels we saw mostly Thrawn the bad guy, but in reading Thrawn the book, we know he's much more pragmatic and reasonable and not really a villain so much. So I don't know. I think that would be a cool mini-series of comics to read, Thrawn and Ezra trucking around together.
Yeah.
And then have Ahsoka and Sabine show up wherever the heck they are. So then we've got a story of all the best characters facing off against whatever the unknown threat is.
Yeah, I gotta believe they hyperspace to some remote planet and they're just stuck there now. Like it's deserted. No one knows they're there and they don't have no way off. That's kind of the only thing I can think of that is the reason why they're not around and no one knows about them. And, there was always a big question to me that, why doesn't Mothma mention Ezra, when she's, talking to Bail about the Jedi, in Rogue One kind of thing, so somehow Kanan and Ezra, that thought of them as Jedis has kind of left the rebellion because there's just not talking about them. And, she brings up, and she may be one of the only ones besides Bail that even knows that Obi-Wan's alive. But again, like the rebellion in Rebels knows of these guys being Jedi, so it's like it wasn't like they were just, condensed to Lothal and only their group. I mean, the Alliance knew about them. So,
right.
So they obviously think that they're dead. I mean, Kanan did die, and I think they think that Ezra is, which again, I think they did a good explanation for why he's in around without killing him.
Yeah.
But I think the only reason, I just gotta believe the only reason they're not around and no one knows they're around is that they're stuck somewhere. Because I don't think this, I know and actually was did that Star Destroyer ever get named Chimera in the show?
I think so. Well,
Did it?
I don't know that it was name dropped. It had to have been. For as much screen time as it had to have been name dropped at some point. But at the very least, we know that it's identified as such on related products.
Right.
Like the Chimera expansion for Armada.
Oh, yeah, right. I loved that name for his Star Destroyer. That's awesome.
Oh, and that reminds me that, anytime we talk about this finale, we have to point out that another EU favorite got named, and he's alive and well. And that's, Captain Paleon.
Oh, yes. Yes, that's right. Yes.
So I think a lot of us that, hold those old books near and dear to our hearts were like jumping in the air and cheering when we heard that Captain Paleon was doing just fine.
Yes. I thought that was cool too. Definitely thought that was really neat.
Yeah.
So where do you think? Where do we think he comes back, or do you think we get more Thrawn?
We are getting more Thrawn.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I think Timothy Zahn's got another book cooking.
He does.
Where it falls, I guess we don't know.
Yeah.
At least, well, maybe has it been mentioned?
When
Am I just behind?
No, I don't think it does.
Okay. So, I mean, we could just get basically a sequel.
It's got Vader. It's him and Vader, so...
Okay. So it's probably then like an immediate sequel to the first Thrawn book, and then maybe rolling into Rebels, probably.
Probably. That sounds about right.
Yeah. But as far as future Thrawn, I gotta believe that the time frame between Return of the Jedi and Force Awakens, there's got to be some conflict in there. That's too long of a time to go without something fairly significant happening.
Yeah.
And I have to believe that it's going to be something Thrawn related or Thrawn adjacent. Yeah. Especially now that we've got the next story of Sabine and Ahsoka go find Ezra. Who's with Ezra? Thrawn is.
Yes, that would be. No, I think that's a great safe bet, because I think, yeah, like you said, there's just so much time in between 6 and 7 that maybe he doesn't come back like he did in the EU, but because there's so much of the First Order that's getting developed, and no one knows about it, but there's still remnants. There could be remnants of the Empire still lingering around that is still at that point then fighting the rebellion, or not. I'm sorry, fighting the Republic.
Right.
And that would make sense for him to do that. But I don't. It's weird. His character is like you said, he's not really a villain. So I don't know if he would even do what he did in the EU at this point. It's like, if the Empire's not around, it's like, okay, well, then I'll just do whatever else I need to do.
Right.
I'm not going to just, be evil.
And I seriously doubt that the First Order would be able to recruit him.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I agree with that.
I think it'd be cool. It's not going to happen, but if someone wants to write a fanfic of this, it'd be pretty sweet.
Yes, it would.
If in rebuilding the new rebellion after Last Jedi, when they're desperate for allies, go see if Old Man Thrawn is, if they can pull him out of the nursing home long enough to go beat up General Hux.
That's right. Well, Chiss, they might have a long aged lifespan too. So
we don't know. Maybe
he could be in his prime by then.
There you go. He was just a teenager. Back in those days.
Yeah. All right. Well, Evan, I appreciate you coming on the show, man. We definitely are going to do more of this with you, man. This is fun.
Absolutely. I had a great time.
Yeah. We could talk for hours, but we got to try to got to keep people wanting more, right? Got to keep people wanting more.
That's right.
So I definitely want to get you on before we, especially. How about when we get a brand new Solo trailer? Then we got more to talk about Solo as that movie nears.
Perfect.
Because I think we're actually going to do, as we get closer, we might do a theme. May might be Solo month, where we talk a lot about Han Solo. So we'll get you back on that as we gear up for that movie.
Oh yeah, I will be so ready.
Yes, can't wait. So all right, so thanks again to Evan. You can again listen to the Jodo cast. Make sure I'm saying this right, Evan. Jodo, is it jodocast.com, I think, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Yep. So go to JodoCast.com. Listen to all that. Star Wars Tabletopping Gaming with you and I think you got a couple co-hosts on there, right?
Oh, yeah. We got a rotating door.
Good. And, of course...
and actually, I've got some ideas for how you can still get some Star Wars gaming in that doesn't require a big investment of miniatures or cards.
Awesome. So go listen. Hey, side note, have you played Rebellion?
Yes, I have. A couple times.
Man, I love Rebellion.
Yeah, that is a fun one.
So,
I played a 2v2. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, 2v2 is very fun. Yes. Yeah, very fun game because that's just a one-time buy. Buy that. It's hours of Star Wars gaming in that original trilogy, but love it. All right, Evan, I appreciate it, man. We will get you back on here soon. Everybody go check out the Jodo Cast. And I usually, Casey usually does a quote, but I won't do a quote because he's not here. But thanks for listening, everybody. We are InsideTheForce.com. Of course, follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook at Inside the Force. All our shows are on the website. Check it out. And we will be back next week. Hit up all the rest of the news and catch up on Star Wars. As always, Evan, thank you, man.
Thank you. A pleasure as always.
No problem. Take care, everybody, and may the Force be with you.
Thank you for listening to Inside the Force, a Star Wars podcast hosted by David Cottingham and Casey Cooney. For more shows, additional content, articles, and the latest Star Wars news, please visit InsideTheForce.com. Inside the Force. For the Force, then all of us.